Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the 1.73 Mission Over Measure podcast. Today we have David McArdle. David, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of the Mission Over Measure series. I'd like to get started with just talking about who you are, what you do, how you got there. Just give us a little brief overview.
Well, thank you both for having me on. I am currently the founder of RightFit Accounting Performance Group, which is a lot to say. So I'm just probably going to call it RightFit from now on. But that's actually kind of a new role. Before we were RightFit, we were the virtual marketing directors. Before that, we were indie web designers. It's a long way of saying I've owned a digital marketing agency for about 9 years, and we've evolved from just building websites for local companies here in Indianapolis to companies all over the US and some in Canada, to now actually focusing on just doing marketing and strategy for accounting firms. And on top of that, I'm also a professional pilot. So I'm flying all over the country and all over the world sometimes. But this role I can do from anywhere. And it's great because I have a lot of flexibility with my time, and so this allows me a productive use of my time to build a growing business.
When you say professional pilot, you don't mean like you get out there on weekends and occasion, like you're flying the big commercial airplanes.
I get paid to fly 767
Okay.
all over. So yes, when I say professional pilot, I'm not saying I'm one of those fortunate people that gets to own an airplane and fly it around and think I'm really good at it. But actually been flying airplanes since I was about 13 years old. So if I do the math, that's for the past about 30 years. So I love flying. I can't imagine not flying or doing any other work, but now running a marketing agency, meeting people, helping them kind of figure out what digital marketing is and websites and SEO and all of that. That's actually a lot of fun too.
What got you originally into flying? Was it like, oh, you just watched Top Gun growing up and you're like, I want to do that? Or was it someone specific that already was a pilot?
So both. There was a lot of Top Gun in my childhood, but my grandfather actually managed a small airport in northeastern Indiana. So for any of you Hoosiers listening, if you know where Angola, Indiana is, and it's kind of up towards you guys anyway, so you may know kind of around that area, but about as far north and east in Indiana as you can go, that little airport up there, actually my great-grandfather founded it. My grandfather ran it for 43 years. So my childhood was visiting my grandparents on weekends and going up to the airport. And sometimes it was just staying out of the way, but then that grew into mowing the grass or washing airplanes or scrubbing hangar floors, to working up there full time and earning money to pay for flying lessons if the weather was nice. So when I was 13, I'd work up there over the summer. If the weather was nice at the end of the day, my grandfather would take us up in the airplane, give us a little flying lesson. And I got my pilot's license at 16 years old. Fun fact, could actually fly an airplane by myself before I could drive a car by myself, because in the state of Indiana, you had to be 16 a month and a day. And to fly, you just had to be 16. So on my 16th birthday, I went and flew by myself. And a month later, I got my driver's license and could actually drive by myself.
So for all of you Hoosiers out there that are somewhere between 13 and 16, there's an awesome opportunity. Forget the car. Go for the plane.
Right. Just go for the plane. Right.
That's so great. So why not just pursue a career as a commercial pilot? Why this marketing thing?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I was fortunate enough in my aviation career to kind of land at where I felt like I wanted to continue my career to retirement. So it was the company I wanted to work for, and I could get a schedule and a lifestyle that didn't require me to work every day. So I'm able to manage my schedule. So I had some free time, probably more free time than I knew what to do with. my mindset, I like to learn new things. And I always had this vision of like the 90s, like teenage kid coding, with the big headphones and the Red Bull, staying up all night. For some reason, that kind of captured my imagination and seemed cool. So I was like, I want to learn to code. And did some research. I'm like, well, the easiest place to get started might be just web design and HTML and CSS, and just kind of learned basics that way. So I did. Learned a lot of the code, but learned that nobody actually builds websites by coding them anymore. There's plenty of great tools out there. And ended up having a conversation with my dentist of all people, who had purchased a dental practice from a retiring dentist. And said, would you be able to build me a new website? Because we were talking a little bit about how he's learning website development. I asked her if she really wanted that, because I really didn't fully know what I was doing yet. And she had all the confidence in the world in me. We worked together, and I was able to make a website she was super excited about. She ended up referring me to a handful of other people, and now I have a business. I have enough clients. I probably should make this a legal entity and kind of do it by the book. And so developed, so like I said, started as indie web designers and just worked with local small businesses in Indianapolis. We just showed up at Chamber of Commerce meetings and networking events, and just being those web development people that actually showed up and actually responded to emails and would be very communicative and helpful and try to speak on the level of most people who are not tech savvy. And that's how we grew our business.
Yeah. So you could have had this just as, I want to say, a hobby. I mean, flying perhaps was a hobby that turned into a profession. But you could have just said, well, when I'm not flying, I will build websites. Yet, when we were just reconnecting before we hit the record button, David, you were sharing how, a lot of amazing things have happened. And that ultimately it's like you've hired some great people. You've built a fantastic business. In other words, it's like you could have just done this on your own, but you've now got a self-managing company. Like, why go that direction? Why take on all that complexity and chaos?
That's a great question. And I will say that a lot of our growth has come more recently because I have kept it small. There have been periods in our 8 years of existence where I had a full-time web developer on staff. I had kind of a content writer and content editor on staff with me. And so I've had periods where I've had teams. I've had periods where it's just me. And I've kind of gone through that. I'm like, I'm just going to, like you said, get rid of some of the complexity. So I've kind of gone in some cycles. And a couple years ago, things with my flying schedule, especially after COVID, kind of settled down. And I realized I was at a crossroads. This was the time that I was either going to say, okay, I'm just going to maintain the current clients I have, and as they move on, or as they either sell their businesses, close down their businesses, or find other developers, I'm just going to let them go. I'm not going to replace them, and I'm just going to kind of ride this into the sunset. It's always been profitable. It always generates a little bit of cash for me. Like, that's perfectly fine. Or I could go the other way, and I could say I'm on to something here. If I really wanted to invest the time and energy and find the right people to do this with me, this could be something big. We are doing some really good work, and we are getting really good feedback. I'm going to need to take that kind of leap of faith in saying, okay, I'm going to invest more in a team, in a sales process, rather than just kind of see more profitability numbers, say, okay, our margins are really good. No, I'm going to invest that in the company and see what I can make of it. And so it was a personal challenge to me, saying, okay, you started a company, but can you build a company? And so that was the mindset shift for me. Was okay, now it's time to go. And so I almost tell people I've taken 8 years to prep my startup, and now we're going. So I've had 8 years of kind of practice learning in a very safe environment where it was just me. I didn't have a ton of clients. Nothing we were doing or building was super complex. But now we have all the systems in place. I've got people in place, and now we're just pouring gas on the fire, and we're just going to see how hot this baby can burn.
That's so great. It's interesting. Henry could attest to this. We're at a similar crossroads. We've been 11 years in the business organizing framework, business operating system world. You go back to the hero's journey we were talking about earlier, where you're in that ordinary world, and you just explained a great example of that. Of it's you're doing some great work with clients. You've probably got a few folks that help out, but there's this call to adventure, right? And my understanding is it happens in one of two ways. Either you're shoved into it involuntarily, like there's some impact that occurs, some collision that occurs, and it sends you down a different path or a different trajectory. You're kind of forced into it. The other is you actually, there's a phone ring and you decide to pick it up and you listen and you say, that's interesting. I wonder if we should pursue that. It sounds like that was a little bit more of the flavor for you. When that happened, when you got confronted with that, there's this path or this path, what did you lean on when that call to adventure showed up? Like, was it someone else? Was it, go ahead.
So, honestly, 100%, it's my faith. I pray, and none of this comes from me. And if it does, it's because he's given me the skills to do this and the opportunity. So, if I can, I'm going to go kind of on a tangent on you here real quick, but I see myself as kind of the COO of my business. God's my CEO. He really, I've put this in his hands. And I said, hey, this is yours. I'm just here to do as you've assigned me. So if this is wildly successful and I need to just hold on and make things happen and do my part the best I can, great. If you have something else for me to be doing right now, this is not what you want, that's fine too. And just holding this with open hands. And I think, from the response and the situations he put me in that time of kind of reflection and prayer, he made it very obvious to me, at least then, that I want you to do this. And here's a quick story. This is crazy. So when I was making this shift, I needed some money for marketing. I said, I need about $10,000 if I want to do kind of the marketing the way I want to do, to get out there, to get in front of enough eyeballs, to make the math work, to generate leads, to get some people in the door. And so I just prayed. I said, hey, God, I would love to have a $10,000 marketing budget to do this. And I prayed that. I got 2 days after that. I was in crypto for a little bit and had put some money in a handful of different coins, and had forgotten most of it. I had pulled most of it out, but I had left some in because it was kind of worthless at the time, and it was going to take more energy for me to get it out than do anything else with it. And I get a text. It's kind of just like a spam text because somebody's trying to get me to answer back, but it talks about somebody trying to get into one of my crypto accounts. Well, I know there's no money in that one, but that just cued off a light bulb to me. So I looked at one of my other ones that I'd left alone. I had pulled the coins out of. Preston and Henry, when I consolidated the value of the coins that were in those and sold it, it was $10,000, $10,371. It was like, he was like, here's your check, and I'm just going to give you a little extra. And within a week, I had $10,000 in my business account. And I said, okay, I guess we're doing this. And I have not had a prayer answered more clearly than that I can really think of in a long time. And so I kind of took that as a green light to say, hey, get to work, put this money to good use. and so far it's working. So I'm just trying to remain faithful to that call.
And it's so difficult, isn't it? Where, well, maybe
Yes.
not for you. I'm sure you're
No,
much better.
I'm telling you all the good stories right now. So there's still been very challenging times where things were definitely not as clear.
Well, it's tough, I view that, this revamping of your business, and I think we've talked about this on past episodes, but everybody goes through that hero's journey and they go through the whole cycle and then they reach, back where they came from, but with more knowledge and information to help. But then that becomes your new ordinary world. And there's going to be a new journey that presents itself, and a new journey and a new journey. It's like this never ending cycle. It's never just one. As much as we want to believe that, oh, there's only so many Star Wars movies, so there's only so many journeys that they can go on. But for us, life is a lot longer than 3 movies. So there's constant journeys to go on. And hearing that, just like, oh, this was like you had your ordinary world that was a result of your previous hero's journey, and now this is your new call to adventure that couldn't have been more obvious to go on. I think that's just a really cool story.
Yeah. Yeah, I've learned so much uh, over the past 8 years just about the web design, marketing, that space. And the reason we chose accountants are because of other relationships our organization and myself have built over time, where we would get a lot of referrals for accounting firms. So we already had a lot of accounting firms, and they were some of our best clients. Now, all of our clients are wonderful, but accounting was an industry that we could focus on that we knew really well, and there's a need there. Accounting firms are kind of an interesting place because they're not, most of them that I've talked to have plenty of business. They are not, they want to grow, yes, but they don't necessarily need more clients. They're trying to grow their work from their current client base to do more than just taxes. Like they want to be your business advisor. They want to help you with succession planning and tax strategy throughout the year rather than just tax time. But they don't know how to just intuitively do that or have those conversations or set up systems that will set clients up or warm clients up for them. So yeah, this new journey that I feel like I've been equipped for is now to help partners at accounting firms kind of execute on the strategy that they already know that they want to follow. They have the strategy. They've worked with either their own team internally or brought in consultants. So they have a strategy. They just know they can't execute it themselves. And there's such a need for that. And we saw that. We're like, oh, we actually do have all the tools, and we can carry that burden. We can do all the work too, because we know the industry. We don't need to spend a bunch of the partners' time trying to figure out kind of the basics of how the accounting industry runs and what their real needs are, and make sure we use the right language, things like that. So yeah, I feel like we're very well equipped, kind of like you said, for this next cycle of the journey.
How'd you end up with accounting or CPA firms out of all the different, even if you narrow it down a little bit to professional service organizations?
Mm-hmm. So we're going to go back to our StoryBrand days. There was another StoryBrand guide that I got connected with, and he works for a firm that are consultants for mid to large size accounting firms. And we stayed in touch. And similar to you, Preston, a lot of times he would do StoryBrand workshops. He would do them for accounting firms, but their organization didn't do any of the execution in terms of building a new website or things like that. So he would contact me and he'd say, "Hey, David, I've got this firm. They're about 30 people. Here's the brand script that we went through and created for them. Could you take this and translate this into a website for them?" And after we did a handful of those, we kind of just became their go-to partner. So that helps set us up to get some practice with accounting firms, learn the industry. But now our connection with that consulting firm, I go over and visit them, try to get over there at least once a year in person, just to get a better idea of what the current status of the industry is, what are the challenges that partners are facing, where are the bottlenecks, what is the technology they're using or looking to use, so that we can be prepared to help them right where they're at.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like what's been most I'll say intriguing about niching down for you? Because that David that can be a really confronting, scary proposition when, especially if you've been in the world of serving a number of different organizations, a number of different industries, to say, well, you in effect could go, we can help lots of people, to no, we're actually proactively choosing just this small little group. I was on a call a couple of days ago, or listening to a recording of a call of a group that I'm affiliated with, and this gentleman is in the stone industry, like they for building all sorts of different stuff. Their applications were everywhere. Like they sold to everybody in the construction and trades business you can imagine, and he narrowed it down to, no, we've made the decision. We're only selling to architects who work with stone projects. That went from 80,000, 100,000 potential customers down to something I think it was like 7,500 in both the US and Canada. There's a leap of faith. So there's got to be a pull to taking that risk. What was it for you?
Yeah. So I'd been in the marketing agency long enough to know that most kind of small agencies like myself, a handful of people, maybe an outsourced team, we're really good generalists, but we're not, we don't advertise as specialists to anything, because we were afraid of turning anybody away. We didn't want somebody to come to our website or hear about us, be like, oh, they didn't list me as one of their brands or industries they serve. But the clients that left our agency over the past 3 to 5 years have all gone to specialty marketing agencies. We actually did lose an accounting firm a couple of years ago to a marketing agency that does solely accounting websites. So that was my first red flag, saying, what makes us different than everybody else? But Preston, to your point, yes, it is scary. What has just blown me away with what is so easy now is being the obvious choice to any accounting firm. Almost, it does have to work for us before we even have our first meeting, knowing that all we work with are accounting firms. Everything we do is designed for accounting firms. All of our systems are already built for accounting firms. So when they meet with other marketing agencies that are just kind of the run of the mill, or they could be very good, but they kind of service everybody, we can still charge a higher fee because they know it's going to be worth it. They know that it's going to take less of their time. And we offer a wide range of services that fit. All of those are for marketing or for accounting firms. So yes, it was scary, but looking back, how easy the marketing is completely worth it, because before we could market to everybody and it was a huge competition. We're trying to show up for web development in Indianapolis to start, because it's always easier if you can go local. But even that, there's hundreds of web design companies here in Indianapolis. There's one, maybe two agencies in Indianapolis that say they only work with accounting firms. And when you look, they actually work with a lot of professional services like lawyers or financial advisors. So they have focused on kind of a larger niche than us. But even to our website, all the keywords and SEO wise, everything is targeted so that when an accounting firm searches, hey, websites for accounting firms or CPA firms or growth for a CPA firm or strategies, those kind of things that we start showing up. And so, yes, it was scary. Looking back, I wish we would have done it sooner. I know that's something that's heard a lot. It doesn't make it easier for the small business owner listening, thinking about this. The fear is that you're going to alienate your current client base if they're outside of that niche. And so that's been something that's been top of mind to me. So I'm making sure that, we're not dropping the ball with any of our current clients by changing this focus, and we're remaining with all of our commitments to them. It's just all of our forward-looking marketing is spent on accounting firms, not the rest of the kind of the small business world that we were looking at trying to capture before.
What were some of the holdups, maybe not holdups, but obstacles or fears you had before you decided to make that change? Specifically, like, on your questionnaire you filled out for us, you said the most imposing dangers that might get in the way of your vision is me, myself, and I, which I think any small business owner can absolutely relate to. So was it truly just, me, myself, and
I was in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to share the story of how all of this actually happened, because I'm not the one that kind of moved the needle on this. So I hired my director of operations. Her name is Gay Newland. She also lives here in Indianapolis. I hired her in July. And, following nice standard EOS practices, we had a quarterly check-in. And so I had a list of questions kind of set up for her. We're having a really good discussion. And towards the end, I said, okay, I want to flip roles here. You own the business. I'm the new hire. And I said, what would you be doing differently as the owner than what I'm doing right now? And she said, well, I think you're doing a pretty good job, but I would niche down. I would choose an industry and just go for it. And it wasn't the first time I had thought about that, but I'd never been willing to let myself really open that door, think about what it would look like, and commit to doing it. But I already knew that she was, just extremely knowledgeable. She's got a great background. She's done all sorts of different kind of work. So I knew there was some wisdom behind what she was saying. It wasn't just, try to come up with something. But that there was a lot of thought behind that. And so her saying that to me in that meeting was the turning point. I was like, okay, so she's on board with it. I think that there's a lot of value to it. And then that's when I really started praying about it, just trying to process. I'm a processor. I don't make large purchases quickly. Ask my wife. I have to take a lot of time to just think about how all of this is going to happen. And so I'm a thinker. I need time in the quiet to just run through scenarios, think through options, imagine worst case, best case. And so that's where that transition started happening. And the more I thought about it, the more that I thought this was the correct move for us.
What'd you have to give up in that moment? I'm imagining certainly this is just my vision of how that conversation played out, David, but you ask Gail that question and she presents an answer perhaps you didn't want to hear, maybe you didn't expect to hear, perhaps you didn't even think, are you kidding me? That's freaking insane. Why would we ever do something like that? Whatever it was your experience, what'd you have to give up in that moment to actually listen to that and take that into consideration?
I think the biggest thing I had to give up was the everything I had been building just myself for the previous 8 years, because now we were going to be something new, and it wasn't just my idea. It wasn't something I created. It's something we are creating together. So I'm always trying to remove my ego from processes, things, and, God's been working on me for a long time in that. So once I had kind of had some time to process, I was like, okay, I can push aside everything else that I've built, and move together with somebody else now and say, okay, I think we can build this together. And I think it's actually going to be much better than all the stuff I've been building over the past 8 years. So I'd say that was probably the big obstacle for me. I just had to wrap my head around. But again, it was definitely the right move.
Well, God did give you that extra $300 too.
Exactly. Right.
So,
He was like, hey, here's a little extra.
right. To just listen a little bit more.
Yep.
Right? I love it. What's been most exciting about being a business owner?
I truly, I like helping people. I like seeing people who are, you know, hitting an obstacle because they don't know how to move past that. Whether, I know we need a new website. I just don't know how to move forward with finding the right person to do this. Or I know, a whole slew of things. Just being able to come along somebody, guide somebody, and help them walk past their obstacles. That's what I'm in it for. Because honestly, we're past the money issue. I have a good flying job. That's where the majority of my income comes from. So I'm not looking to, build my company as a giant cash generating machine. I mean, yes, I would love if it would do that, but to use it for other things, to grow the company, to hire, just super competent, passionate people, and to just make a bigger impact and help more firms increase the value of the company. So that's what gets me excited, is when I meet somebody who's struggling and I know I've got the answer. I know that we can do the things that are going to get them past that so they can move on to the next challenge their business is focused on.
What's been most frightening?
So, man, I think just as we've grown and we're growing fast, I am very, I'm very constrictive of my time. Right. So I will put the time in to grow the business, but I'm not going to sacrifice the time for my family, or, the time I've set aside just for my personal growth, to kind of get caught up in trying to do everything for the business. That's where finding competent, passionate people is so important. And, like I said, I prayed a whole bunch when, I was trying to make this decision. I prayed a whole bunch when it was time to hire kind of my number two person. And God's answered those prayers. So I have no reason to believe he won't, continue to answer, as long as I kind of just keep focusing on him, which it's hard. It's scary too, because who knows what the plans he has for this are. And I've told him I'm committed to doing it. So it's not in my hands, it's in his. I just need to show up every day.
Well, I like that example or analogy you said earlier about holding on to your business with open hands. I think it was, instead of like, a tight, sweaty, closed grip that might break a couple knuckles. Were there moments where you were doing that, where you were just like, when you realize like, oh my gosh, like I'm suffocating this thing because I'm holding on to it? I know you talked a bit about, trying to always remove your ego, but were there moments where you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm strangling this thing because of me?
Yeah, I'm not sure I was necessarily, I mean, a lot of times I created my own bottlenecks. I forced things to go through me because I had a very high standard, but I also hadn't invested enough time and energy into people to train them to do good work, that I could, just pass things along to them. And I rode this emotional roller coaster of, signing a new client or a big deal, and now all is right with the world. I'm on cloud nine. That lasts for a little while, and then I'd go into a slump where, we haven't signed a new client in a long time, and it's awful. And, or is this thing gonna survive? And I just recognized that my emotions were tied to our top line revenue, and that just wasn't going to be a healthy place to stay. And so, that's where just kind of relinquishing that upper level executive control, to somebody else and saying, hey, this is in your hands. You do what you do with this, what you'd like. I will show up every day and do my best. But I'm not going to get tied up in the the success or failure of the company, thinking that it's all on me. Now, Grant, I'm sure I could do things to tank it, and that would be on me. But as long as I'm continuing to try to do everything I can to help support our clients and our team, that's what I could do.
Yeah. So it's, it's been fantastic doing this podcast with Henry, and in his early 20s, almost mid 20s, embarking on and hopefully, Henry, I'm not disclosing too much. So just making a choice to say, I really want to be in business for myself. And there's a few different things that it could look like. And he's recently starting his business, his bookkeeping business, which we're just super excited about and proud of him for. And because there's all this opportunity, right? I mean, let's say I'm almost the eternal optimist. I'm certainly not a pessimist because it's all, well, there's so many great things. And to your story about just praying for a solution, praying for an answer, and then it reveals itself. You and I, David, have probably seen that happen in our lives a number of different times. Long way around the corner here for my question, but like, is an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, successful commercial pilot, like what would you offer in terms of an important lesson you've learned for Henry or for Henry's peers or for those at any stage of life that are embarking on an entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, man. There's so many things I could say. I want to choose something fairly profound, but keeping, to your dad's point, keeping a positive view of things, because there are going to be obstacles, and there's going to be days that things are just going to feel like everything's falling apart, or that are really hard to face. And then there's going to be days where it just feels like you're untouchable, like everything is awesome, and you couldn't screw up anything if you tried. And so being able to remember the highs and lows, just like Preston mentioned, I can look back and count so many times where just God's been faithful to me, and I've made a whole bunch of mistakes, and this did not turn out or look like anything I thought it would when I started. But just being willing to continue to show up every day and be there for your clients, and to listen, and just be that resource. Don't overpromise what you can do. Be realistic. Be just true, which is hilarious that it's your name.
Right.
Because I'd say the relationships I've built through just my business over the past 8 or 9 years are one of the best takeaways for me. Just the fact that I know so many people in so many different fields, and that I can go to with questions, or that will refer people to me because we've built that trust, and that's been awesome. So just be cognizant that there are going to be seasons and swings, but be grateful for all the situations, even the hard ones, because you're going to learn things from that are going to make you so much better when that situation pops up again. You're not going to maybe let your emotions, get the best of you, or get depressed because you haven't been able to make a new client sale for a while. You just know that kind of testing period is making you better entrepreneur, because he's got bigger plans for you. Even than what you're doing, these are stepping stones to what he's going to be having you do in 5-10 years from now. you're going to look back and you'll be like, I had no clue this is where I was going because I thought I was going to go this way. But this is so much better. And just hold on, man. Just hold on and show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. And, I'll speak on the behalf of anybody starting a new business, young or old. Thanks for that advice, because I know that I needed to hear that. And what you said earlier about your emotions being tied to, your revenue is something, as a new business owner, I think, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, that, I'm constantly, trying to, man, like, how can I just make money? Like, that's the thought that goes through your head first. Like, I just need to make money. I don't want to show up to a cubicle 9 to 5. So I've kind of, boxed myself in, metaphorically speaking, that is, with like, okay, well, I have to figure it out. It's on my shoulders. And so the first thought is like, okay, well, how can I just make as much money as possible? What can I do? Yada, yada, yada. What you said earlier about, don't let your emotions be tied to that, but almost, and I don't want to speak for you, but like, have it be tied to the quality of service you're providing your clients, the relationships you're building, the people that you get to know. And that goal of, income will come. You're never not going to be able to make a living if you're doing those things right, is at least what I am taking from that. So I know that's great to hear for me. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're 100% right. You have control over the quality of work you provide, the relationships you build. That's what you should be able to get, your emotional high from, just knowing that you're doing good work, because you can't control how much revenue is coming in. I mean, you can move some of the levers around, but you can't make people do business with you. So, you got to tie your, where your emotional center is to something that you can control. And, that'll make life a lot easier for you and the people around you.
Yeah. And going back to that idea of the hero's journey, a lot of people, myself included, probably think, we're always the hero in our own journey, but then we also fail to realize that we can also act as guides in other people's, and putting more emphasis on being a guide for other people rather than just like, I'm the hero of my X revenue, journey that I'm trying to go, my mission, it's figuring out your right mission that you're on with whatever you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Better advice than he'd get from his old man, David. I appreciate it.
I doubt that.
So I've got a few silly questions to ask just as we begin to wrap things up here. So what mobile app could you not live without?
Okay. So oh man, I'm trying to narrow it down to one. I delete most things from my phone. I don't like being on my phone really for almost any reason. It's usually just a distraction from the people that I'm actually around. I would say Audible. I have to, like, in long drives or anytime in the car or anytime I can, I'm listening to a book of something. So I need some sort of something. If it's not the podcast, just Apple Podcasts, it would be Audible, so that I could have something to listen to.
Love it. Your favorite indulgence?
I would say a bottle of, oh man, I'm going to choose one. A good French wine, just on a quiet evening in our family room with a fire going with my wife and a book. Man, that's a perfect evening right there.
I love it. Love it. So favorite free day activity? Nothing on the calendar.
Ooh, okay. Probably going to play pickleball with my 13-year-old son. I don't have very many, I should probably say months, not years, where I can still beat him. He is getting to the point where he's going to be beating me with regularity. And so I need to try to take advantage of any opportunity I can still beat him.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. How many kids do you have again?
I have two boys, 17 and 13.
Gotcha. So final question. Favorite child?
Right. Good try.
Right. I love. I was
Yep.
so when I'm with Henry, I would say Henry. When I'm with his sister Georgia, I would say Georgia.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Sometimes he
sorry.
says Georgia anyways. That's all right. That's all right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. David, thank you so much for coming on and being a part of the podcast. This was a great conversation. I know I really enjoyed it. Where can people get in touch with you and your company?
Yeah, I'd say the best way, you can always check us out. Our website is, RightFit. So all one word, like right, like turning right, RIGHT, RightFit APG.com. That way you don't have to spell out Accounting Performance Group. And you can find us on LinkedIn. We're there as well. And if you want to get in touch with me, the easiest way is just go onto our website, fill out our contact form or something like that. That comes right to me. And that way I can get in touch with you that way.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, David. This was a blast.
Thanks,
Yeah,
David.
thank you guys so much. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Hey there. If today's episode hit home, it's because you know this. Your mission is bigger than any metric, diagnosis, or expectation placed upon you. At Get TPA Fit, we help entrepreneurs and leadership teams delete chaos, earn more, and build value so they can go from stuck to unstoppable in the pursuit of their mission. Visit gettpafit.com to learn how you can break through those measures and pursue your mission.